2016, the year of the buzzkill in boxing, the year of the letdown in boxing, the year of the cock tease in boxing. I can't think of another year in recent history in this sport where more fights have been either kiboshed altogether or stalled on, delayed on, where the can was kicked down the road to the following year because of the fighters or the networks or the sanctioning bodies or the promoters, the advisors, the managers, the trainers, or even drug test results. I can't think of another year in recent history that's had this many of them. And I know that these things happen in boxing all the time. Boxing is like that dysfunctional family member that you love, you support, you want the best for them, and they always find a way to let you down. I get it, guys. But seriously, this year, man, it's been such a disappointment. And I started saying it last year after the dud of the century, the money grab of the century, last summer, that there was going to be a hangover. There was going to be a cloud, a film, a mist over the sport of boxing for a while, and there's going to be this funk. And we're feeling that in 2016. But that's only part of it. That really is only part of it. A lot of this is coming down to other factors. So, as frustrating as this year has been, there was this little silver lining in the distance, right? Over this dark cloud, there was this silver lining. There was this little rainbow on the horizon. And that was the end of the year. We kind of thought we were going to go out with a bang because there were some potential matchups that were legitimately in play. And there was a strong possibility they could get made. I mean, in November, we've already got Pacquiao-Vargas, which, whatever. You know, if you're a Pacquiao fan, good for you. Enjoy that. But we've got the best matchup of the year, the most impactful, most meaningful matchup between Ward and Kovalev. And we've got Lomachenko-Walters a week later, which is one of the better matchups of this year between two of the best little guys in the sport. And then we thought possibly in December, we were going to get Golovkin Jacobs. A lot of you thought that you were going to get Joshua-Klitschko. Those fights now are axed, and most of the fighters involved simply are not going to fight this year. We thought that it was signed, sealed, delivered, that we were going to get Orlando Salido versus Takashi Miura. The guys who were involved in the fight of the year this year and the fight of the year last year against Francisco Vargas were going to do battle at the very end of this year. That's been kiboshed because Orlando Salido is injured. So it's just all this fallout, right, of these fights that we're not getting, at least not yet. And it's already been a year full of that. Remember earlier this year, we were supposed to get Deontay Wilder and Alexander Povetkin. It seemed like it took forever to finally get that fight made. And they couldn't come to a deal. Wilder's advisor and Povetkin's people couldn't come to a deal, so it went to purse bid. Gee, that sounds familiar. And then, of course, there's all the drug testing issues and all that stuff that's been debated ever since. And now Deontay Wilder's out with an injury after his fight against somebody nobody wanted to see him against. And Alexander Povetkin is slated to face Berman Stavern, the guy that Wilder whitewashed to get his title not too long ago. So more disappointment. Maybe those two fight finally next year. But again, the can is being kicked or flicked down the road. I can't kick while I'm shooting this. You know what I'm saying. Let's talk about a few of these fights. Okay, some of the ins and outs here. Let's start with Golovkin Jacobs because everybody just loves to talk about Gennady Golovkin these days. Whether you love him, you hate him, or you just respect him. You neither love nor hate him. You just respect what the hell he's doing in the sport of boxing. That's what I do. Everyone just seems to like to talk Golovkin. So, okay, look. The whole purse bid split deal where Danny Jacobs' team was requesting that the WBA change their long-established rules just for him and do, instead of a 75-25, a 60-40 split. Ultimately, the WBA ruled against him. Props to them for it. But I've seen a lot of talk about this back and forth. And not surprisingly, there are people out there making videos and writing articles and stuff defending Danny Jacobs' position with this 60-40 stuff, which is insane. It's asinine. And I'm not even going to get into all the reasons why. But I think considering everything we've seen before, during, and since that whole process. It just seems to me that that whole thing was a way to delay this damn fight and push it to next year. What makes me say that? Because I hate Danny Jacobs, because I'm a Golovkin homer? No. It's just looking at the way Al Haymon makes fights. Looking at his recent history. Not even recent, but years worth. Going back to Wilder Povetkin, that thing kept getting delayed. You go back before that with Wilder Stavern, that thing kept getting delayed. Let's talk about DeGale Jack, and that thing keeps getting delayed. Charlo and Williams, that mandatory fight with J-Rock, that keeps getting delayed. Everything gets pushed back with Haymon. He delays things as long as he can to maximize the money, to find a way to maximize the money. That's why I think this 60-40 thing was just a bullshit tactic to push the fight back. And it worked. Gennady Golovkin's not going to fight again in 2016. Whatever rumor you heard that he's going to fight, he's going to find a different opponent on December 10th, no, that's it. He's not fighting again for the rest of the year. For Danny Jacobs, he's only fought once this year. He probably won't fight again this year. There's an outside possibility, maybe in December, but I doubt it. He probably won't fight again this year. Many boxing fans don't really give a shit about that. But for Gennady Golovkin and his camp, he's one of the few champions that actually wants to be active and fight. And they wanted that third fight. And he's not going to get it. And it's a damn shame, because some of the politics involved have really, really stunted his growth, his star potential growth in this sport. Look, man, in the past, just this year, Golovkin and his team tried to get fights with Canelo, Billy Joe Saunders, Chris Eubank, and now with Danny Jacobs, it all fell through. You go back before that, they tried to get fights with Miguel Cotto, with Sergio Martinez. Cotto paid them step-aside money, right? Fighters are literally paying this dude money not to fight. Guys like Canelo are literally just handing over their title not to fight. Will Danny Jacobs be the next to do that? Will he give up that WBA title? I don't know, man. I think that ultimately these cooler heads will prevail, and the Jacobs camp is going to realize that this is their biggest and best opportunity for a big money fight. And it's probably going to get pushed back to February or March. It's going to go to purse bid. Al Haymon's not picking up the phone, not answering calls from Tom Loeffler, which is, again, another reason why I think this whole thing was just a way to push it to next year. But next year, whether it's February or March, there's going to be more money. Budgets will be open. And who knows? When that purse bid happens on October 22nd, maybe some Russian bidder will come in and overbid on this fight and put up $7 million or something. The fight ain't worth that. It's worth about $4 or $5 million. But somebody might bid $7 or $8 million. And at that point, Team Jacobs might want to play ball, even though they're only getting 25%. If you're getting 25% of $8 million, you know, he's never made $2 million before. So I still have a hope it'll happen, but not in 2016, because this is the year of the cock tease. Now, with Joshua and Klitschko, you guys know where I stand on this fight and where I have stood the whole time. I never believed in this fight. Not because I think that Joshua and Klitschko didn't really want it. I think they would take the fight, especially Klitschko, but because Eddie Hearn's a master troll. And I don't mean that in a negative way. He's just the best promoter / troller out there right now. And he uses trolling to do the bait and switch and to get people talking about his fighters and his events. And I'm not putting this all on Eddie Hearn, obviously. It falls on Klitschko's side as well, but I just never really believed in it. Up until this week. And the reason why I started to sort of believe in it this week is because I saw some very reputable boxing sites reporting, very responsibly reporting, and making it a note to say, this fight is not official, it's not signed, but it's very close. Terms are agreed to, they're working out a couple of sticking points. Turns out those sticking points kibosh the fight, but those news organizations that I respect, we're reporting it, hey, this ain't official, it's not signed, but it's close. That's when I started to believe. To all of you guys, all those sites, all those YouTubers and Twitters and Facebook chat rooms and all that for the past month or so who have been reporting Joshua-Klitschko as official, Signed, sealed, delivered. It's gonna happen. It's done. Just so you could be the guy who said it first. So you can be the guy who broke the news. Fuck you. Everyone's so desperate to be the guy that breaks the news before everyone else, right? That you'll say a fight's official when it's not. Stop doing that shit. It's annoying. Is it really that big of a deal if you're the first guy to tweet about a fight or post about it in a chat room or write an article about it on some second-tier website? Is it really that big of a deal? Within an hour of any fight being announced by the fighters, the promoters, the networks, whatever, everyone and their mother knows within an hour. It's on all the social media. It's on all the websites within a freaking hour, okay? You're going to get maybe a 50-minute jump on the rest of the world if you're the first guy to break it. But no one gives a shit. So stop with that. As far as Vladimir Klitschko goes, he probably won't fight at all this year. I can't even say again. He hasn't fought this year. There are rumors he might fight Lucas Brown. There's been some talks. But as far as I know, that's all rumors. Both guys are ready to go and willing, I think, but I don't think it's going to happen. There's too much involved in putting together a big heavyweight fight like that. I don't see him fighting again this year. Anthony Joshua will fight on December 10th. It's already slated there at the venue and all that stuff, as far as I know, the network, I mean. But it's against TBA, to be announced, right? So they'll find an opponent. It's going to be somebody on the level of a Dominic Breazeale, somebody like that. But so what? You know, he's must-see TV. Anytime AJ fights, everyone's going to be watching. The fight I want to see AJ in against is Joseph Parker, and that's the mandatory for his title. That is a fight I'm very interested in, because to me, that determines the next few years of the heavyweight division. So I'm very interested in that fight, and that's going to be obviously the biggest test for both guys. But Anthony Joshua is the heir apparent to Vladimir Klitschko's throne that he's had for the last decade in this division. And he's got to pass that kind of a test. We got to see what he's made of. And I think Parker's going to push him. And if Parker pulls an upset, or at least is very competitive in a close loss, his stock rises, and he's going to be back to do bigger and better things. So I'm really interested in that fight, but it ain't happening in 2016. As far as Vladimir Klitschko not fighting this year, there might be some of you out there who are happy about that because you don't like his style, right? Say what you will about Vladimir Klitschko's style. He's still one of the biggest draws in this sport, globally, okay? I'm not talking about America, I mean globally. His fights do big ratings in Europe, in several countries. He puts butts in seats. Tens of thousands of fans go to his fights. I don't expect that to change because of the Fury loss. It might change a little bit, but he's still one of the biggest top 10 draws in this sport. Like it or hate it, you know? And for one of the biggest draws, one of the biggest names in the sport, who wants to fight and is still active, to not fight in 2016 due to no fault of his own, no injury, no drug test results or anything like that, no ducking, that sucks. That just sucks. So, you know, I won't even talk about Tyson Fury, right? I've talked about him in other videos. He's not going to fight this year, and he was briefly the heavyweight champion of the world. I think that lineage that he briefly held and that claim he held is gone. It's gone with the drug results, with the allegations of performance-enhancing drugs, nandrolone, which I think there's still supposed to be a hearing about that coming up. All that's tainted and perverted, and right now the heavyweight division, as far as I'm concerned, has no lineal champion. It's blown the fuck up, and everyone's fighting for the pieces, okay? What else? What other fights am I missing out on? Oh, Billy Joe Saunders was supposed to have a fight on November 26th. Here's a guy who loves to go on Twitter and talk shit about everybody, talk about all the guys he's going to fight, and then doesn't fight him. This is a guy who found a way to not fight Golovkin, career high payday, not fight on the Canelo Smith undercard, which would have been a career high payday, and would include a shot at Canelo next. He found a way not to do that stuff, was supposed to fight on November 26th. I think it's still officially scheduled, But the rumor is that he's got an injury, and that fight is going to be kiboshed, if it hasn't already at the time I'm recording this. So he won't fight this year. I don't know if anybody really gives a shit, but it's a damn shame anyway. I talked about Orlando Salido. He's hurt. He's out of that December 17th card. They're trying to find another opponent for Muira, and they're trying to put together a nice undercard. Bernard Hopkins is going to have his farewell fight. He's had about 10 farewell fights now. Hopefully this really is the farewell fight as the main event of that card against Joe Smith Jr., the guy who scored the upset of the year against Andres Fonfara earlier this year. I actually like this fight. Hopkins is not fighting a stiff out there for his last fight. He's fighting a guy that doesn't have much experience or boxing craft or anything like that, but is a lot younger, stronger, hungrier, and hits. He can hit pretty hard. So I expect Hopkins to box circles around this dude, make no mistake, but one punch can seriously change the outcome of that fight. What I don't get is that it's being held in Los Angeles. You have two guys from the East Coast. This fight would make plenty of sense out there. And that December 10th date is now open for HBO. So why not bump it up a week and put it out there? I don't know. Just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. There are still some bright spots. I mentioned some of the fights we have coming up. I forgot to mention December 3rd, Denis Lebedev against Murat Gassiev in Moscow. But here's the buzzkill. There's no American TV. So you're going to have to find a stream because the American networks in their infinite wisdom won't pick this one up. PBC, who started off the fourth quarter of this year with a big 0 on their schedule. They had 0 fights scheduled. Now has 1 fight on the schedule. 1 fight. Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia coming back to fight Samuel Vargas, the guy that Errol Spence already dispatched. Now the rumor is that if he's successful on November 12th, and that's on Spike TV, that Danny Garcia is supposed to fight Keith Thurman next year. Okay, but how many times have we heard these two guys are gonna fight? Look, we've been hearing, again, I talked about this a minute ago, DeGale Jack. We've been hearing Charlo J-Rock, right? We've been hearing about several matchups that haven't happened yet. Dangling the carrot and pulling it away. Dangling the carrot, pulling it away to next year. So, hey, maybe Garcia and Thurman does happen. Maybe it doesn't. They've talked plenty of shit on Twitter here and there. But think about all the guys who talk shit on Twitter, all the fighters who talk shit, and the opponents they talk about. Did the fights ever happen? How many of those fights, those Twitter scraps, really ever translate to the ring? The only one I can think of right now is Mayweather-Pacquiao. And that took 7 years? November 19th, Kovalev Award. November 26th, Lomachenko-Walters. Talked about that. But, look, boxing as a whole, 2016 has had a rough year. UK boxing, really strong year. Your fighters have won some, lost some, but some of the biggest and best events this year in boxing, your fighters were involved in them, whether they were there in London or abroad. So props to UK boxing. I think Japanese boxing is having a very good year. So there's some bright spots, right? We've had some great fights. Vargas-Salido was an amazing fight. One of the best fights, I think, maybe in several years, not just this year. So we've had some fun moments. I talked about Fonfara being upset by Smith. Thurman Porter was a good fight. Frampton Santa Cruz, a good fight. We've had some bright spots, but man, this has been a rough year. One more thing about Golovkin Jacobs, because again, we all love to talk about Gennady Golovkin, don't we? I've heard some suggestions that Daniel Jacobs is trying to push that fight back to avoid or delay VADA drug testing. Now, I want to be clear about this. The WBC program for their drug testing is for their fighters ranked in the top 15, and that includes their titleists, obviously. This fight, even though Golovkin's titles are on the line, this is for the WBA. It's a WBA sanctioned fight. So it's going to fall under their rules. So VADA testing will not be mandatory. And if you look at the WBC's ratings right now, just look at their middleweight ratings. Daniel Jacobs is not there, right? Don't take my word for it. Go look. Unless they changed it literally 5 minutes ago, because I just double checked. But he's not, as far as I know, sanctioned or rated by the WBC. He doesn't pay those sanction fees to get ranked by them. He wants no part of it. Take from that what you will. But Golovkin can make it a sticking point in negotiations that he wants VADA testing. Daniel Jacobs doesn't have to do it. He's not rated with the WBC. So, look, take what you will from that. Fighters who don't want to be rated with the WBC, fighters who don't want to do VADA testing, it does leave a question mark. But there's no reason to accuse somebody of something when there's absolutely no evidence for it. So I don't believe that Jacobs' team is delaying this fight to delay VADA testing. I just think they're delaying it to next year because that's just what Al Haymon does. It's what he does with all of his damn fighters. And I gave several examples here. So no conspiracy theories. That's just Al Haymon's MO, right? For all the bright spots I talked about, the glamour divisions in this sport, the heavyweight division, the middleweight division, the welterweight division have really, really suffered this year. They've labored. And I do think next year there's going to be some good stuff. There's some nice things on the horizon. But light heavyweight division too, man. What's happened with the light heavyweight division? You're going to get one big matchup, and that's going to be Kovalev and Ward. And I'm concerned with that fight. I'm concerned with that fight because this is being marketed as the pound-for-pound fight. The winner of this fight's the pound-for-pound best in boxing, right? Not many casual fans are going to tune in. Not many casual sports fans are going to tune into this event. It's kind of going to fall under the radar because neither guy's a big star. But the ones who do tune in, if we get a hug fest, if we get a grapple match, if we get a really ugly fight, which could very well happen, let's be honest here, how many casual fans that see that are going to go, this is the best guy in all of boxing? This is boxing's best right now? This looks like another Floyd. Ugh. What's on UFC this weekend? That's my fear with Kovalev Ward. So I hope that we get a ref that is going to help with both fighters' styles, not just one or another, right? That's a good ref style-wise for both guys. That's what I hope. I hope all the drug testing, the judging, all of that stuff is on the up and up. And so far, every indication says that it is. But in closing, one more thing about Golovkin Jacobs. Some of you guys have said, why doesn't Golovkin just say, fuck all these guys and move up to 168? Gilberto Ramirez. I don't think he deserves a Golovkin fight yet. I don't think he's ready. I don't think anyone gives a shit. He's injured anyway. But those of you who have suggested James DeGale or Badu Jack, do you really think any of those guys are going to be any easier to make a fight with, considering who promotes and advises them, than Danny Jacobs has been? Think about that. Do you think that if Golovkin just said, hey man, yeah, I'll move up to 168, James DeGale, do you forget who advises him? How active has James DeGale and Badu Jack been this year? They've been almost official to fight each other now for, half the year? There's been a pending announcement for months now for those two to fight each other. But you think Golovkin and his team can just move up and get a fight with him easy on December 10th? What are you smoking? What are you smoking? Okay, that was my negative rant of the day. I realize 2017 will be a bounce back year. The fog of Mayweather-Pacquiao will lift. We're going to get some of these fights that we really, really have wanted to see. The glamour divisions will bounce back. But I'm just, I just thought, I hoped that 2016 was going to go out with a bang. And it's just kind of going out with a pop. I thought I was going to go out with a big overhand right from Joshua. It's just going out with a little jab. That's what we're getting.